Hey guys, this is Shenanigans Skywalker, back for a spicy, controversial video, because who doesn't like petty internet arguments over fictional characters? So as some of you guys probably know, a few days ago I posted a video called I Ship Rexsoka, Fight Me, and boy did it get some mixed reactions from you guys. I mean, I didn't realize the subject was that polarizing. I mean, just looking at the comment section, it looked like it belonged to a video about like the 2020 presidential election or something, because that's how different the reactions were. So because that video was pulled from a live stream I didn't really get to go in depth about why I like the ship and think it works. So that's what this video is all about. If you have a different interpretation of the characters, that's perfectly fine. You're welcome to share your opinion in the comment section below. But for the sake of this video, this is just my opinion.
How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
So I had some people asking, like, why would I ship characters in the first place?
Because I can.
It's just, I think it's a good topic for discussion, just for fun. I wanted to thank those of you on the anti-Rexsoka shipper side who laid out your points in the comment section and were respectful, and I'm going to address a lot of those arguments in this video. I'm not claiming that Ahsoka and Rex were actually interested in each other in canon, although I think you could make an argument for it, but we'll get into that later in this video. It's just speculation and discussion, so take it how you will. Okay, so the first anti-Rexsoka ship argument that I'm going to bring up is the age gap. So I saw a bunch of people in the comment sections talking about how, oh, Rex is like 3 decades older than Ahsoka, but Ahsoka's actually older than Rex, but no, he's not. Okay, so it just got really confusing, so I think we just need to go ahead and clear this up. Ahsoka was born in 36 BBY, which means by the Clone Wars movie, she's 14 years old. Rex's aging is a bit more tricky. He was born in 32 BBY, making him technically younger than Ahsoka, but because of the clone's accelerated aging, he ages twice as fast as a regular person would. So in the Clone Wars movie, he is technically 10 years old, but physically he's 20. Now granted, the weirdo wooden animation of the Clone Wars movie makes him look a lot older. One reason for that is probably because the animators chose to design the clones after Tamara Morrison instead of the younger guy who played the clones, Bodhi Taylor. And we do actually see one clone who looks like Bodhi Taylor, and actually looks like the way clones are supposed to look at their age. Theoretically, Rex should actually look like that, not like Tamara Morrison. And eventually the animation gets better and they look their regular age. Okay, so all that's to say, at the beginning of the war, Ahsoka is 14 and Rex is 20, physically. And at the end, she's 17, maybe reaching 18, and he's physically 26. Now let's just clear the air right now. I don't ship Rex and Ahsoka when she's 14 because that's just weird. So, and also because I don't think Rex could see her as anything more than a friend and a commander and a spunky teenager at that point. But I don't see anything wrong with shipping Rex and Ahsoka after the Clone Wars, at which time they would be physically about 8 years apart. And keep in mind, an 18-year-old Ahsoka would not be the same level of maturity as an 18-year-old in our world. She was a child soldier. She led men into battle for 3 years. She watched her friends die. She matured at a much faster rate than most people that age would in our world. So a few days ago, I left a poll up on the channel and asked you guys, hypothetically, if Rex stopped aging at a weird rate after the Clone Wars ended, and would you ship Rexsoka? And the results, out of 1,000 votes, 17% said yes, they would make a good ship, and 83% said, oh, I don't think so. I personally love the idea of Rex aging normally after the Clone Wars, so the age gap would remain the same. Yeah, I don't really like shipping them when he's like Space Santa Claus in Rebels. I mean, there's nothing immoral about it, technically. It kind of reminds me of the story from the Bible, if you're familiar with it, of Boaz and Ruth. And Ruth chooses to marry Boaz even though he's older than her. And yeah, but all that's to say, it would be ideal if Rex stopped aging at an accelerated rate after the Clone Wars. But yeah, I can't help that. That's the only reason I'm not a 100% Rexsoka shipper. But most of the arguments I see in the comment sections didn't have to do with age so much. It was more of the character's dynamic. And that's our next point. So another anti-Rexsoka arguments I kept seeing come up in the comment section was that they're more like siblings in the show. I think this is a stronger argument than the age gap arguments, but I still don't really agree with it. We all have different ways of interpreting interaction between characters. Some character dynamics are pretty clearly meant to be familial in nature or like siblings. Kind of like Anakin and Ahsoka, it's pretty obvious they're supposed to be like an older brother and younger sister. For instance, they're always bantering. Anakin is her teacher and mentor, and Ahsoka even refers to him as her older brother in season 7.
Whoa, where did you learn to fight like that?
My older brother taught me.
Personally, Rex and Ahsoka don't strike me as having a sibling dynamic, especially when I compare their interactions to other sibling-like relationships in the show, such as Anakin and Obi-Wan, Anakin and Ahsoka, Rex and Fives. Ahsoka and Rex have a very different and unique kind of respect, formality, and nonverbal communication with one another that isn't anywhere in Star Wars, in my opinion. It's this kind of unique bond that allows for Rex to warn Ahsoka before he executes Order 66. It's also the reason that Ahsoka is able to connect with Rex on a deeper level and open his mind to find the inhibitor chip in Season 7. So you could argue that they're more like platonic soulmates, not siblings, or romantic soulmates. I can see it either way. Another reason I just don't see Rex and Ahsoka as siblings stems from the Clone Wars novels. Most of you probably don't know this, but in them, Ahsoka very clearly has a huge crush on Rex, and I thought this was hilarious when I first saw it. So this first excerpt is from the novel The Clone Wars, No Prisoners by Karen Travis. I'm going to try to say this with a straight face without laughing, because this is just kind of funny to me. Anyway, Ahsoka grabbed his hand as if she'd been suddenly scared by something. I can't do this. But Ahsoka's grip was like nothing he'd ever felt. Not just because Togrutas had strangely cool skin, but because he felt as if he'd been connected to something he didn't understand, plugged into a universe too vast to grasp. Now he was the one who was scared. And then, a little further down, blah 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 blah. Ahsoka's agitated expression, head tails more deeply colored, chin down, made him wonder if she was sweet on somebody and facing the reality of orders for the first time. Now you might be thinking, Shenanigan, that could be referring to anything. You're reading too far into the text. Okay then, let's check another source, shall we? This is Star Wars Clone Wars Gambit Siege, a book by Karen Miller. And this is an excerpt, if the first one wasn't proof enough. Okay. Leaning forward, he patted her on the knee. So I say we play darts. What do you reckon? And there was her heart, breaking all over again for love of him. Yeah, let's read that one more time. And there was her heart, breaking all over again for love of him. Such a decent man he was. She bounced, it sounded like Yoda. She bounced to her feet, determined not to disappoint him. So, okay, I know I'm going to get people in the comments saying, Shenanigan, that's not canon, it's Legends. It doesn't count. And that's true, it is Legends. But these are also the same people who will tell me to go read the comics and read the books, but then as soon as I show them this passage, they're like, no, that doesn't count. I realize this is Legends, but I find it fascinating that Lucasfilm would ever put this out in the first place.
There's always a bit of truth in Legends.
Yeah, that's just interesting to me that they would even insert these conversations in the first place, because that's certainly not something I would be thinking about my sibling. That sounds like a girl who has a major crush on a dude who's older than her. The way I interpret this overall, I just think maybe Ahsoka had a big crush on Rex when she was a younger Padawan, but obviously he didn't think of her like that because in his mind she's just a spunky teenager and he's not interested in a 14-year-old. And maybe he wasn't interested in her until after the Clone Wars when she's actually a young woman and not a kid anymore. Is interesting to say the least, and it kind of leaves me to wonder whether the Rexsoka ship is really as far-fetched as people say. Interpret it as you will. Interpret it as older brother figure or best friend or platonic soulmate or whatever, or in a romantic way, but this isn't really how you would look at a sibling, like a little sister. Just throw my 2 cents out there. Because after the Clone Wars, Ahsoka, she's a seasoned soldier. She's been through an entire war. She was a child soldier, and now she's a young woman. And I think that is a drastic difference from when we first met her. The third argument I kept seeing people making in the comments section was, well, Rex, he was like by her side as she was growing up. They met when she was still a teenager and he was 20. People like invalidate the ship just because the two characters met when one of them was a teenager. Like I said before, I do not ship them when she's a minor. But just because they met when she was a teenager doesn't mean they can't be a couple when she's an adult. Everyone has a different story. Some couples meet when both are adults. Some meet when one's a teenager and one's a young adult. Some grow up together and are childhood friends. One way is not always the correct way. As long as the relationship starts when they're an adult, it doesn't matter when they met. My parents, for example, so when my parents met, my mom was like in 8th grade and my dad was like a senior in high school or something like that. And he was best friends with my mom's brother and didn't see her as anything more than a little middle schooler at the time. It wasn't until she was older that it became something more. So that's just like evidence that it doesn't matter when you meet somebody. It's more of when the relationship actually starts. I keep seeing people comment how Rex would call her little one or youngling or kid, stuff like that, especially at the beginning of the Clone Wars. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, he saw her as just a kid and nothing more than that. But later on, she becomes a young woman. She's no longer a spunky kid. She is her own person. She's mature. Feelings change over time. Like, you might know somebody now who you see as a platonic friend, and down the road, they become something more than that. So I'm sure the fandom police is probably going to come after me again, because somehow it's deeply immoral and disgusting to ship two unrelated adult fictional characters. If you still think it's disgusting and creepy, then, to each his own, whatever. So basically, to sum it up, I think Rexsoka is a really good ship because it is built on unconditional love, a really deep connection that I think the animators and creators of the Clone Wars really honed in on in the last 4 episodes. They have a really special connection, undying loyalty. They've been through so much together and experienced so much, and I think they know each other better than anyone else does. And really great verbal and nonverbal communication, which I think is something very lacking in today's TV and entertainment. Because I think a lot of times relationships in entertainment today are portrayed as shallow and self-serving. And personally, I just think it's a lot better ship than Rexsoka. Not just because Lux is a loser, but also because that dynamic was just self-serving and like, how does this person make me feel, rather than what is our true connection. So yeah, I think Rexsoka makes a lot better and deeper and more meaningful ship than anything they could have given us within the show. So I can really see them going either direction. I could see them being platonic soulmates or romantic soulmates. Either way is fine with me. I'm just kind of defending the Rexsoka side of it for this video because I think they get a little too much hate. So you're welcome, Rexsoka shippers. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to that video, listening to me ramble on and geek out. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more content, and I hope to see you next time. May the Force be with you always. Shenanigan out.